Welcome into another episode of WBOA Courtside. Excited to have you along the way with us each and every week. I'm Lance Lusenegger along with Justin Marion. And this week we're excited to be joined by Bill Topp. He joined us last year on the podcast. We edited video this year and he still returned. So he did not scare him away. That's awesome. Bill Topp, if you're not familiar, president of the NASO, also COO, the executive editor of Referee Magazine, a former high school and small college basketball official. Got back into the officiating game a few years ago on the football side. Just did a state championship game this last fall at Camp Randall in Madison, and very active in the development of officials across the country, not just here in Wisconsin. What got you back into the game of officiating on the field?
Thank you, Lance and Justin, for having me again. It's great to be with WBOA, a group that is near and dear to my heart, with a lot of people that I refereed with still involved. So glad to support the organization. What got me back involved in officiating? Well, I never left officiating because it's my full-time job. Dealing with it 60 or 70 hours a week, even though I wasn't on the field or court, it's still all I think about every day, all day for the last 36 years. So I felt like I never left in that sense, but I was really glad to return. I stopped simply because my 4 kids were all involved in sports, and I didn't want to miss what they were going through. They all played high school sports. One of them played small college sports. And a lot of it was in the fall, volleyball, and then they played basketball, baseball, softball, all kinds of stuff. I coached some of their youth stuff just for fun. I didn't want to miss what they were going through. So I parked my own officiating for that reason. Stayed connected, obviously, through my full-time job. I always had that itch to get back. The one that I thought I could continue to do time-wise with my job, my family, and everything else was football. It's the one that I hung on to at the end when I was in my first go-around. And always felt like I could make that level of commitment. It was going to be a little bit harder for me to make a commitment to basketball or even go back to baseball. I was fortunate enough to land on a solid crew of football officials that are all members of your basketball organization, and some of which I officiated basketball way back when. So people that I knew, people that are friends of mine, and it's been a lot of fun to be back. So absolutely missed just being in the locker room and being with other officials like that. The social part was so much more important to me than I ever imagined when it went away for a while. Again, no regrets with what we did with our family and my kids, but boy, I miss the locker room more than anything, before and after.
Well, you referenced it. Obviously, you live and breathe officiating. It's something you do for a passion and a career, but that time away is different, even though you have that conversation in there. As you look back, what did that time away from the game teach you about officiating, leadership, or perspective that you may not have learned had you stayed continuously active?
One thing that I learned being away is that in some ways the game doesn't change. In other ways, it's changed quite a bit. So I like the challenge of figuring out what the coaches' strategies were, what the kids were doing, and how those personalities may have changed over the years. And maybe that's just part of me being an old guy now instead of the young guy in the crew. But I would say some of the things that I hear on the field that the players are saying to one another, the language that they're using, seems different to me. And the tolerance for, I guess, what we would call trash talking and other things, especially in the sport of football, is higher at the high school level now than it was 20 to 25 years ago. I'm presuming it's like that in basketball. I've watched a lot of high school basketball, but haven't been on the court in a while. That trickle down of behavioral issues that we're seeing at other levels continues to remain an issue at the high school level. There's so much of this look at me kind of generation, and it's playing out. And so for an old school guy who was on an old school crew, it's been a little bit of an adjustment for me personally to maybe tolerate a little bit more, use a little bit more preventive officiating in that area. But I do like the challenge very much to see it from that side of it. It's one thing to be involved with my job. It's another thing to actually be on the field or court. I'm really glad to be back.
Bill Topp, our guest this week on WBOA Courtside. You mentioned it, getting back as an official on the field with football, but your day job is also officiating with being the president of the National Association of Sports Officials and heavily involved at Referee Magazine. From your vantage point, as we sit here towards the end of this season, March of 2026, how would you describe the current state of officiating in Wisconsin when it comes to depth and development and expectations placed on officials here in this state?
I would say improving, no longer lagging. I would have felt that way for a long part of my career. There just really wasn't much investment made in officiating in our state for whatever reason. I travel to all the states, get to talk to all the state associations in various ways. And Wisconsin, especially as compared to other upper Midwest states, I would say was lagging for a long time in their investment in officiating, including with personnel at the office. So the WI has made more of a commitment to officiating in their own personnel hires and in some of the support statements that we now receive publicly that we hadn't seen in previous years. So I'm glad to see that. Most importantly, though, it's the commitment of, frankly, the WBOA. And I'm not blowing smoke here, but this is one of the best local officials associations in the United States, not in the state of Wisconsin, in the United States. Started roughly a decade ago at ground zero to now, and focus on education, focus on high standards, focus on things like conflicts of interest and other things that are off the court, to use all the latest technologies and to grow the organization from the ground up by doing it the right way. I couldn't be more proud of any association with WBOA. We need more of that in this state, in other sports too. WBOA could be a great example for a football group like that, or a baseball group like that, or any other entity out there around the state that wants to model what WBOA has done. So that has raised the bar for others because we're all competitive. That's why we do this. Competitive against the game itself, trying to be perfect, but competitive with each other. And that includes local officials associations in a good way, not undercutting people on game fees and other things, trying to steal contracts from one another. That's the wrong kind of competitive for local officials associations. But the good kind of competitive is raising the bar. And WBOA has done nothing but do that in Southeast Wisconsin.
If you had to name one single thing an official can do off the court to improve their standing and opportunities within basketball officiating where our audience is, but it'll certainly entertain football as well, as we have plenty of crossover, what would it be and why?
Well, I've said it a couple times already, but I'm an old school guy. I would say the number one thing officials today can do that we did a lot better back in the day is get together socially. We need some windshield time together, driving to games together. We need some post-game social opportunities to talk and share our experiences with one another and frankly, just have some fun. So much of what I see around the country right now is these young kids aren't doing that. Either that's a product of what happened during COVID where we were all locked down and everything went online. We just haven't broken out of that in some ways. And some of it's just the way these kids learn today, or they think they can watch 20 plays and become a basketball referee. The real learning beyond the obvious of watching video, which is important, and reading the rule book and studying your mechanics manual and all that, is actually learning from others, learning from veterans, learning what they went through. And so much of that is gained socially with other officials. Basketball's tough. It's a little easier in football. 1 or 2 games a week for at the varsity level. You can maybe take some time to be social and get together with others and talk about the play and the situation and how you handled that coach and all that kind of stuff. Basketball's hard, especially now. We still have a shortage, and a lot of your members, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, they might be working 4 or 5 or 6 times a week. That makes it tough on the social side to make that commitment too. But in the old days, we used to do it every Friday night. There were a couple places around the area where everybody went, and it was just fun. And we also made a strong commitment to try to drive together if there was any appreciable distance so that we can spend time in the pregame, before the pregame, if you will, and talk about sometimes things beyond basketball officiating. Sometimes it was life in general and families and getting to know each other a little bit, but a lot of times it was trying to get our heads right for that game. We could turn back the clock to that. All these kids today who are watching all this video will actually be a lot better because of it.
Bill, as we talk about on the court now, what is the single most impactful habit that you would recommend or give an official that can really help them develop and be consistently good on the court, improving play calling accuracy, credibility? Is there any good habits that you would recommend to officials for elevating their game?
I'm going to say 2, and those people that know me are going to laugh at both of them because I had a hard time with both of them. But 1 is slow down, and 2 is keep your mouth shut. I struggled with both. But the reality is we want to call things too quickly in all of our sports. I'm talking about the three that I was most familiar with: baseball, basketball, and football. If you can be disciplined enough to just hold that whistle for that split second and watch that play develop all the way through, you are going to be so much better in not reacting to things, but actually watching them play out. I'd much rather have somebody a little bit late on that whistle and be correct than a little bit early on that whistle and be incorrect. But that applies to every sport. You've just got to find the discipline to slow down. And keeping your mouth shut a little bit has as much to do off the court as it does on. Quick-witted is a blessing and a curse. Being funny is a blessing and a curse. They make for great stories when we are getting together socially, but it can get you in a lot of trouble. So just know that humor and other language that you might use doesn't work for everybody. You learn that over time. What you say to one coach works Tuesday, and you say the same thing to the coach on Friday, and it didn't work. Everybody's different. Every situation is different. So you've got to think all that through, and you can only do that if you're slow down. They're actually related. If you're quick with the mouth, you're probably quick with the whistle. So slow everything down, and I think you'll be better for it.
Mechanics often separate good officials from great ones. What is the single most important mechanical focus you believe officials should prioritize at any level?
Slow down is a good one. And basketball is still the number one thing that gets everybody in trouble, and that's ball watching. Be disciplined. Stay off the ball. So many times we got double whistles on things that are unnecessary, and it only indicates that one of them wasn't watching where they were supposed to be watching. Sometimes that's a product. You can't use this excuse anymore because three-person has been around for so long. But back in the two-person days, there was a little bit more of that double ball watching, if you will, even though that was way worse because we didn't have that opposite C looking off ball. You still see it today, and you see it at every level. You see it in major college. You don't see it in the NBA. They're too good. They're too disciplined. But you do even see it at the major college level where there's just too many times where we're paying too much attention to the ball. And we know, as veterans here all know through WBOA training, that 85% of what we are going to do, correct or incorrect, is going to be off the ball. So stop ball watching.
Continuous education, Bill. Your thoughts. How important is continuing education for officials at all levels, whether you're first year or in your 20th year?
But you got to keep learning or you're just going to stay stagnant. If you're the same as you were a year ago, you're either going one way or the other. You're usually not the same. You either get better, you're going to get worse. It's competitive out there. But I'll also say this. We have an opportunity now more than ever with summer ball and fall leagues and God knows what else is going on. You could literally work every day of the week all year round. I'm going to say something a little strange, but don't. Take some time away. Unplug. Get away from it. It will make you 1,000 times better. I'll tell you that one of the best things I did is I got established at the high school and small college level was in between my seasons because they overlapped, right? I tried to take at least a week, if not 2 weeks off before I started the next season. I didn't do that early in my career when you're trying to get established and you're trying to climb the ladder and all that. But once I got comfortable, I would take like this football season, for example. We worked the third week in November or whatever it was. I wouldn't have worked a basketball game until probably at least into early December. Try to take at least 10 days off to just decompress, unwind, come up for air. And it helped me a lot at the end of my career because rolling from one to the other, you're carrying baggage from one to the other. You're tired from one season, and now you're supposed to be excited to start the next. It's hard. You're excited for that sport, don't get me wrong, but you're carrying some stuff with you. I don't care how good you are on compartmentalizing yourself. If you've had a long football season and now you're starting a longer basketball season, taking a little break is good. Same thing for these kids that are climbing the ladder today. Every camp, every clinic, I was the same way. Everybody's got the fire. I get it. You'll be way better off if you just unplug for a while. One, you're going to miss it a little bit, which makes you hungry. But two, you get better perspective. We can actually work too much. It can hurt us.
Well, how do organizations like Referee Magazine and the National Association of Sports Officials support officials nationally? And why does that connection with local groups like the Wisconsin Basketball Officials Association matter so much today?
Well, local officials associations are still the lifeblood of officiating in this country. We have some state associations do a great job of supporting and investing in officials. We have other states that do absolutely nothing. And then there's a whole bunch in between. But we're really all of the nuts and bolts learning that we're talking about here today is at the local officials associations in almost every sport around the entire nation. That's where we live. All of us at NASO referee have been a part of or ran local officials associations because that's really where the training is happening. That's really where the recruiting is happening. And that's really where the retention is happening, trying to keep people in this. So they mean a lot to us because I still think that they're the heartbeat of it all. NASO provides support all around the country, all sports, all levels. We've got 37 countries represented with our membership, and we've got officials in every state of the union. And we're supporting people. 85% of our membership is at the high school level, but we have everything from youth officials, little league, everything else, all the way up to the professional level, and all the NFL officials are part of NASO. To me, they're doing that because they care about one thing, and that's the officiating industry as a whole. They want to support the organization and the 22 people we have in Racine, Wisconsin that are waking up every day fighting on behalf of officials. And they want to support that organization. With all the stuff that we do educationally, with the magazine, with newsletters, with online education, and all kinds of stuff, the NASO Summit is huge every year where 450 or so leaders are going to come and gather every single year. People look forward to that. They plan around it, and they come to that to learn and to share. And I think NASO is just a microcosm of all of that, the sharing and learning across sports, across levels. And we like to think we're at the center of the universe of all that in our tiny little office in Racine, Wisconsin.
Bill, you've worked basketball, baseball, football. What is one lesson from working multiple sports as an official that a basketball only official can maybe apply to become, improve their craft along the way? Is there any lesson that you'd give them from working all three of those?
It's funny, if you could maybe Frankenstein an official and take a little bit from all three, you'd have a really great official. Baseball umpires have intestinal fortitude like nobody else. It takes guts and strength to stand up to what you face in a baseball game. We need to apply a little of that to our other sports. In football, it's a little bit what I talked about already, but football's got the benefit of time, which we could all apply to our other sports. In football, I can watch what I think might be holding on the left guard, and I can kind of watch and see if he continues to hold. I can kind of watch and see if it impacted the play. I can kind of decide that the running back got through there because of that hold. I can say, yep, it impacted that play, and now I can throw my flag. There's no rush to do so. So the discipline of watching the whole play and slowing down can certainly apply to our other sports. And in basketball, mentally, the best part that other sports could learn from is you got to quickly get off whatever the last play was and get on the next. It happens so fast. There's so much going on. I can't dwell on a mistake that I made or a comment that the coach made or a player I'm having an interaction with because we're already down the court the other way. And if I'm worried about the last one, I'm going to screw up the next one. Football, the opposite happens sometimes. You can have a play that you're not happy about, but you don't get another real play for another 15 or 20 plays, depending on your position on the field. So it's in your head the whole time. You got to let go. We can learn from one another in all these sports. And again, that's what Referee Magazine and NASO is all about, learning from all those sports. We can improve all of them when we learn from others.
Bill, as Lance mentioned in the preview, after nearly a decade away and what people may not know, a career in football spent primarily as a referee and crew chief, you were invited back to officiate state football this year, your first trip since 2009. This time, though, in a different role as a back judge. A lot has changed since you last stepped on the field, wearing that different color hat than all the referees. What did the journey back to the state level teach you about preparation, humility, and dedication, and what lessons can basketball officials apply from your experience as they work closer to their own goals?
Well, I'm now the old guy. It didn't used to be the case. For the longest time, I was a kid. I mean, I started umpiring baseball. I was 14. I was doing basketball and football in my teens and really got serious in my 20s in college. So now that I'm 57 years old, I'm working with some younger guys. It's kind of crazy. They're picking on me in the locker room about how long it's taken me to get ready and how long it takes me after the game to get ready to leave and old man comments here and there. I was picking on people. It doesn't seem that long ago I was making those jokes to people. So that's been a hell of an adjustment for me as being the old guy. The fun part about coming back as a back judge, one, as a white hat, kind of been there, done that, but all the other administrative responsibilities, communicating with commissioners and the facilities and the crew and pre-season meetings and pre-game meetings and all that. I was glad to give that up, if you will. Did a lot of that. So as a back judge, when I first broke into small college football, I was a deep wing on the sideline. So I had some experience downfield. Then I became a white hat in both for 20 plus years. Liked about it is it's forced me to get into the mechanics manual because it's not natural to me. I had to fill in as a white hat a couple times already. It sort of was like riding a bike in a lot of ways mechanically. Kind of felt comfortable where I was looking and what my responsibilities were. I'm still not quite there as a back judge heading into my 4th year back, but it's been good because I feel like a rookie in that way. So it's forced me to get into the mechanics manual and study that section of the rule book that maybe I didn't study as much before. The white hat, you're working on enforcements and other things. Everybody's got to know all the rules. I get it. But as a back judge, obviously, you have more responsibility in the kicking game, punt returns, and things like that. So it's actually helped me quite a bit to come back to a position and kind of be out of my comfort zone and get into those rule books and mechanics manuals. And then I can also offer advice to the rest of the crew still learning together because I've been in those other positions and trying to help our crew chief as well, just because of some of the experience I have. So that part I liked a lot. I like the challenge of that.
Bill, as the president of the nation's leading officiating publication and advocacy organization based right here in Racine, Wisconsin, what is that one message you want to share with officials who are watching us here this week?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a sports official and representing our industry every time you put on the uniform. It's not easy, as we all know. I like to say it's not easy. I like to send the message that not everybody can do this. I know that's probably against some of the recruiting models out there, but we're special people who are doing special things, and we aren't thanked enough. So from the national perspective, yes, based in Racine, Wisconsin, but I just want to say thank you for your commitment to officiating, to maintain professionalism, to putting yourself out there so those kids can play, and doing it in a way that represents officiating well. Your responsibility is to the game, not to the coaches, not to the kids. It's to the game first and to your partner second, and never forget it. I just want to say thank you for making that commitment.
Well said, and thank you, Bill, for your commitment to officiating on the field, on the court, and with everything you do across the country and across the state of Wisconsin, helping out the officiating game. As you know, it's not getting any easier for us out there, and I appreciate all you do to advocate for officials.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Justin, and good luck to everybody.
That is Bill Topp, our guest this week on WBOA Courtside from NASO and Referee Magazine. I always appreciate everyone tuning in and letting us know that they're out there watching. Thank you so much. For Justin, our executive producer, the guy behind everything, Josh Mansky, I'm Lance Lusnegger. Thanks for tuning in this week to WBOA Courtside. Thank you so much.